There are a variety of things that are required to be in the staff files. The clearances are one of the biggest piece of a staff file, so we require that all three of the clearances in the state of Pennsylvania, the state police, the child abuse, and the FBI clearance all be present in the staff's file.
We want to see evidence of them having gone to get or applied for the clearances, especially newer staff. We'll be looking for that regardless, but when you have staff that have been there for under 90 days, we need to see that they've taken the steps to go out and get those clearances.
If they are missing at least one of those, they have to show you proof that they've applied for them. So for example, if they are missing their FBI clearance, then they are provisional. And you cannot let them start in the classroom with kids until they have presented a receipt from the actual brick and mortar place that they went and had their fingerprints scanned. Sometimes people print out the registration online and put it in the folder and then end up getting cited because that's not the proof of the fingerprinting. The child abuse and the state police are easier because they're online. So once they apply online, they can print out the little response that says, "Thank you for applying."
A disclosure statement is part of the CPSO, which goes along with the clearances. This disclosure statement is basically telling the director or facility, hey, I haven't committed any of these crimes on this statement since the last time I got my clearances.
We require staff files to include a health assessment and TB test. We require that at initial hire, and then the health assessment must be updated. So if it's an existing staff person, we would look for multiple staff health assessments. We require them to have a copy of the staff person's driver's license or some sort of other proof of age so that we can ensure that the staff person is at least 18 years old. That also usually tends to give us the proof of address, or an application for a staff person would also provide that information, because we do require proof of their address and their phone number as well.
Proof of education, proof of experience. We do have a verification form on our website that makes it very easy for the previous employer to break down how many days a week they worked, how many hours a day, and for how long. Because without that, we can't calculate the total hours.
They may have a copy of their diploma from their high school. They may have their transcript. If they have a GED, it may be proof that they've completed the GED requirements, have passed the GED test in Pennsylvania.
They would need experience documented in there, possibly from a previous employer, what they did, how long they were there, how many hours per week did they work. It has to be really detailed.
We'll look for letters of recommendation from a non-relative that states something along the lines of, I know so-and-so in the capacity of having watched my children, or I know them from our church, or in something that attests to their character and their ability to work with children.
So there are many different ways that a person can obtain their annual professional development hours.
If you are offered a certificate as proof of that training, that's obviously the easiest thing to do is slip it in there.
If the director has chosen to use the PA Key Professional Development Registry, and they get a lot of trainings from Better Kid Care and from the PA Key, they can log in and print a whole transcript out from that year. It's nice and easy peasy, and put that in the file, and an inspector can then come in and review that rather than collecting 20 different certificates. But we'll take either method as long as it can be verified.
Staff cannot confirm their own trainings. They can't say, I attended this. I've seen even a list, like the director typed up a list and stuck it in their file, but it has to be verified by the actual trainer.
They are required to have proof of their mandated reporter training if they've been employed there for more than 90 days, proof of their health and safety training, and their pediatric first aid and pediatric CPR. The trainings also include things like their emergency plan training, fire safety training. If it's a facility that swims, we would look for water safety training as well. And if they've been an existing staff there for more than a year, we would look for staff evaluations.
For family providers, the operator themselves is going to need their clearances. Again, education, health assessment, TB, and they're going to need proof of training from year to year as well. If a person helps provide food or prepare food, if the person does supervise the children while the operator needs to do something else, they should have a complete file because really they're considered a staff member.
The biggest problem that I've seen that's problematic is lack of paperwork when they're hiring staff.
I've seen health assessments that don't even have a name at the top. How do I know who that health assessment belongs to? But in some certain circumstances, they just needed that health assessment to be handed in and they didn't realize that the name wasn't on there. Or there's no signature from a doctor.
Lack of verification that proves that the person is qualified for anything higher than an aide, which is very important because an aide needs supervised by another staff member.
Under the professional development area, I'd have to go back and look at numbers, but I think a lot of times what happens is certificates get misplaced.
Some of the best files that I've seen actually do follow along the staff data sheet that we provide to providers and ask them to complete at their renewal inspections. That's what we file in our paperwork, and so the easiest files to review for me have been the ones who follow that pattern.
So our staff files are located in one central filing cabinet. They are alphabetized. And then on each staff person's file, they have a front page. So that front page has everything that the Department of Human Services requires. So I have their name, I have their date of birth, I have their hire date, and then going down from there, I have all the other requirements. So all the first aid trainings, the fire safety trainings, their clearances, when did they get those, when did they get their TB test.
Our staff files basically mirror the DHS worksheet that is given to us. We've invested in binders for each of our staff files. That helps our DHS rep when she comes to just be organized, and it helps us to be organized.
So every staff has their own file folder that I keep in my office. It's organized by the sheet that we get from the state. So in there is everybody's clearances, health information, recommendations, trainings, and I keep them all in my office. I also have an electronic file that we use since the state had switched things over to giving us an electronic file, so I keep that as well.
So for example, clearances is obviously usually the first thing we're going to take a look at. If the old clearance was here, current clearance is on top, current clearance is on top, and these are all my police clearances. And then I may have a pile of my child abuse clearances. First one is on the bottom, the newer ones consecutively stacked up. Turn the page, maybe now we have health assessment. So the very first one is going to be the health assessment, including the TB test. Then every 24 months, the newer health assessment goes on top.
Where they ask for most recent, that's the current one, and then the previous date is on the back side. They can easily just flip there, and that's their previous one. And then we have staff that have had a third one that just is scanned and saved electronically.
Usually, if I'm looking at a file that works well, it's very organized. They usually divide it up sometimes into different sections, especially if they're a large agency that requires their own paperwork. That is usually kept separate within the file. So they might have a file that divides and they'll put their own paperwork on one side and all of ours on the other side.
Facilities like to keep us there as little time as possible, and so the more organized your paperwork, the less time you have to see us. Usually my best organized facilities laugh when I tell them, boy, this paperwork may only take me a half an hour, and that's 2.5 hours less than I may be somewhere that's very much less organized.
We keep all of the staff paperwork that's required for DHS in a separate binder from any of the other paperwork that we keep for our staff. So we have 2 sets of binders for each staff person. And one is directly our DHS file, and then one is our Keystone Stars file or personnel paperwork.
I have all the staff's name in one central location on a spreadsheet with all of their dates of clearances, TB tests, physicals, fire safety. So I kind of have 2 check systems, but mainly I use the first spreadsheet with all the staff on it to really know who is due and who's missing, information or needs the upcoming training that's available. We color code things, so it may have a red box on it or may have an orange box because they are, it's going to be coming up due. They're not due right now, but we know within, we like to give our staff, that little, 3-month kind of window notice. You're going to be due for a physical in 3 months.
I skim through them once a month, and every 3 months I do detailed file reviews, and I also keep a grid of everything that's due so I can just glance, and anything that's due currently coming up is highlighted.
So if something is due in April, I may highlight already in January that says, oh, okay, staff A is due for a physical. I need to give her the physical now. I need to alert her it is due by this time.
I set reminders for myself in my computer so that each month I'm sending reminders to staff regarding things that need to be updated. I send emails, for example, when somebody's physical is coming up that it's going to be due, I start sending email reminders about 4 months out, and each month I'll send them a reminder saying your physical is due by this time. So that seems to help.
And then we have a grid in the hallway that our staff are able to see and track along, so they're always aware of what's in their file. They're able to see when their deadlines are coming due. We mark it for them with a little red dot. You have something coming due in 6 months. We circle it if it's coming due sooner than 6 months, so they're well aware when they have things coming due, as well as we're aware when things are coming due, to help track and make sure everyone's, aware of things. We give staff responsibility, yes, and it is on them to do that, but ultimately, let's face it, it's my responsibility to make sure their staff have what they need.
And there's no shame in saying that maybe my skill is not good in organizing these files, but maybe I have another staff here that's just every time I walk into the room, totally organized. They're on the ball. Maybe think about delegating that duty to somebody else.
Start off with good organization, because if you start with good organization at the beginning, it's much more, it's easier to maintain that paperwork as your facility grows and as you hire more staff.